history, Iran is one of the largest civilizations in the world from ancient times to the present day. The history of Iran dates back thousands of years to the beginning of the Manian civilization of Azerbaijan on the Iranian plate. This was followed by the city of Jabal, Isokta, and the ancient Gurt Empire, which was replaced by the Elam Empire and the Achaemenid Empire. Next came the Persian and Sassanid empires, which led to the rise of the modern Islamic Republic of Iran. There is evidence of the existence of many ancient and technologically advanced civilizations on the Iranian plate before the arrival of the Aryans from the north of the world, although many histories of the Aryan nation are still unknown to many historians. Archaeological findings suggest that the history of Persia dates back to the middle of the Paleolithic period, about 100,000 years ago. The history of Iran after the Persian conquest of Islam in the 7th century is given below. The Arab Muslims invaded the Persian Sassanid Empire in 636 AD. Within the next 5 years, they occupied all of Iran except the Alborz Mountains and the Caspian Sea coast. In 751, they were able to bring about a complete collapse of the Sassanid Empire. Iran has been under Arab Islamic rule for almost 2 centuries. At the same time, the empire expanded beyond present-day Iran to present-day western Afghanistan, Herat. The caliphs of Islam ruled Iran first from Medina, then from Damascus in Syria and finally from Baghdad in Iraq. At the end of the 9th century, an independent state emerged in eastern Iran, and in the middle of the 11th century, the Arab Caliph of Baghdad lost control of Iran. After the Islamic conquest of Iran, Iranians gradually began to convert to Islam. Prior to that, most Iranians believed in Zoroastrianism, the state religion of the Sassanid Empire, and a minority of Iranians were Christians and Jews. By the 10th century, most of the people of Iran had converted to Islam, and most of them were Sunni Muslims, but some followed different sects of Shia Islam. One of them, a Ismaili Shia, lived in a small but independent kingdom in the Rutabar region of the Alborz Mountains from the 11th to the 13th centuries. The current Jafri Shia of Iran did not form an Islam-based identity before the 16th century. It is the city of Paranshir, the oldest civilization in Iran, with a history of 8,000 years. Iranian politics takes place within the framework of an Islamic republic. The constitution adopted in December 1979 and the 1979 amendment defined Iran's political system. The constitution declares the Shia sect of Islam to be the state religion of Iran. Ali Khamenei is currently Iran's supreme religious leader, and Syed Ibrahim Raisi is the elected president of the country. There is also a 290-member unicameral legislature. Military forces. There are 2 types of armies in Iran: a conventional army and revolutionary security forces. Army, it has 4 parts: Army, Navy, Air Force and Air Defense Forces. However, most of their Air Force aircraft are of old technology. Administrative regions. Iran is divided into 30 provinces. In Persian, they are called Ostan, plural Astana. Each province is governed by a local, usually the largest city, called the province's capital, Persian, Markaz. The governor of the province is a governor, and he is appointed by the Interior Ministry. Each province is further divided into several parts, which are called Sharistan in Persian. Each city is further divided into several districts, called Bash. Each Sharistan usually consists of several cities, Shar in Persian, and many clusters, Dahestan in Persian. A city in Sharistan is usually given the status of its capital or central city. Provinces. Main article. Provinces of Iran until 1950. Iran was divided into 12 provinces: Ardalan, Azerbaijan, Baluchistan, Persia, Gilan, Iraq-i-Azam, Khorasan, Khuzestan, Kerman, Loristan and Mazandaran. In 1950, Iran was divided into 10 provinces and several governorates under it: Gilan, Mazandaran, East Azerbaijan, West Azerbaijan, Kermanshah, Khuzestan, Fars, Kerman, Khorasan, Isfahan. From 1970 to 1981, several governorates were promoted to the provinces one by one. Most recently, in 2004, the then largest province of Khorasan was divided into 3 parts and 3 new provinces were created. Geography. Provinces of Iran. By size, Iran is the second largest country in the Middle East after Saudi Arabia. The total area of the country is 46,000 square kilometers. The country is roughly triangular in shape, with the longest arm being about 2,500 kilometers long, beginning at the border with Turkey in the northwest and ending at the Pakistan border in the southeast. The third vertex of the triangle is located northeast of the border between Iran and Turkmenistan. Iran has a maximum range of 1,600 kilometers in the north-south and 1,800 kilometers in the east-west. Natural areas. Iran's inland plateaus are almost entirely mountainous. The Zagros Mountains are the main mountain range, extending inland from northwest to southeast for more than 1,700 kilometers. With the exception of Khojestan on the northern coast of the Persian Gulf, almost all of western Iran consists of the Zagros Mountains. The central part of the range is about 340 kilometers wide. Most of its peaks are more than 4,000 meters high. Of these, the 4,546-meter high Jard Ku is the highest mountain peak. Much water accumulates in the peaks above 2,300 meters and they descend into the lower valleys in the form of groundwater. Although these valleys are located at an altitude of 1,200 to 1,500 meters above sea level, they are quite fertile and cultivate a wide variety of crops. At the northern tip of Iran, a steep, narrow mountain range covers the entire southern shore of the Caspian Sea. Its name is Alborz Mountains. The range is about 800 kilometers long and has an average width of about 100 kilometers. Damband, the highest mountain in Iran, 560 meters, is located in the middle of this mountain range. Many more peaks of Alborz have crossed 3,600 meters. The forests on the northern slopes of these mountains receive heavy rainfall throughout the year. Between these mountains and the Caspian Sea is a fertile plain with an average width of 24 kilometers. There are a number of parallel mountains to the east of the Alborz Mountains, which are located at an altitude of 2,400 to 2,600 meters. There are many narrow, arable valleys between these mountains. Many relatively low-lying cliffs have passed along Iran's eastern border. Together they are called the former highlands. The lowlands in the middle of this mountain range are collectively called the Central Plateau. These include a large saline desert called Kavir in Dashti in central North Iran, a pebble and sand desert called Ladan Dashti in southeastern Iran, and several fertile oases. The mountains of Iran are located on an active seismic zone, and many small earthquakes occur here every year. Large earthquakes occur after a few days and cause huge damage and loss of life. In the 18th century, an earthquake shook the city of Tabriz in the northwest twice, killing at least 40,000 people at a time. Since the middle of the 20th century, there have been many major earthquakes in the country that have killed thousands of people. A devastating earthquake in June 1990 at the confluence of the Alborz and Zagros killed at least 36,000 people. An earthquake in southern Iran in December 2003 destroyed most of the ancient city of Bam and killed at least 30,000 people. Many mountains in Iran are volcanic. These include Mount Damband and the Toftan active volcano in southeastern Iran. Gas is emitted from time to time near their peaks. Rivers and reservoirs. There are many rivers in Iran, but almost all of them are short and shallow and unfit for shipping. Because it is the only navigable river in the country and it flows through the southwestern city of Awaz. Most rivers originate in the highlands and end in the inland valleys. The people of Iran have been using rivers for irrigation since ancient times. In the 20th century, dams were built on the Dej, Karka, Karun, Sefid Rud and other rivers to increase irrigation and generate hydroelectric power. 3 rivers flow through Iran's international border. The Araz River borders Armenia and Azerbaijan, and the Shatt al-Arab River borders Iraq. Iran shares the Caspian Sea, the world's largest lake, with 4 countries. Many small saltwater lakes are located inside Iran, the largest of which is Lake Urmia in the northwest. Some freshwater lakes are found in the high mountain valley area. Coastline. About half of Iran's international border is coastline. These include the 640 kilometers long coastline on the shores of the Caspian Sea and the 1,600 km long coastline in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. There are important ports in the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, and the areas are rich in oil and gas underwater. Abbas is located on the Strait of Hormuz in Iran's largest harbor. Animals and plants. About 10,000 species of plants have been identified in Iran, but most parts of the country have been cleared of natural forests and turned into arable land or pastures. Beech, oak and other deciduous trees grow in forests and pine and fir trees grow in the Alborz Mountains. Oak forests can be seen in the highlands of the Zagros Mountains. Wild fruit trees such as walnuts, pears, pomegranates and walnuts grow in the Alborz and Zagros Mountains. Wild pistachios and other drought-tolerant trees grow in the barren central region of the country. In Dashvat, a tamarisk or evergreen palm tree grows on the edge of Kabir. Iran is home to many endemic mammals, reptiles, birds and insects. Wolves, foxes, bears, mountain goats, red mountain sheep and rabbits are still breeding. However, Caspian tigers, Caspian seals, some species of deer, wild cats, etc. are under threat, although various government projects have been undertaken to protect them. Iran has more than 300 species of birds, of which more than 200 migrate to other countries as guest birds. Economy: Iran's GDP is $439.5 billion US dollars. Iran's per capita income is $5,415.21 US dollars. Iran's economy is a mixed and transitional economy with a large public sector. With 10% of the world's oil and 15% of its gas reserves, Iran is considered a nuclear power. Inflation in Iran is 30.48%, 2016. The major industries are petroleum, petrochemical, fertilizer, caustic soda, car manufacturing, parts, pharmaceuticals, home appliances, electrical appliances, telecommunications, energy, power, textiles, construction, cement and other construction materials, food processing, especially sugar refining and production of herbal oil, ferrous and non-ferrous metal fabrication, armaments. Tourism: there are many historical places of interest for tourists all over Iran. Until 2003, the world's largest adobe building, the Arg, was located on the famous Silk Road in the town of Bam. But unfortunately, in 2000, a 2,000-year-old building was almost completely destroyed in a devastating earthquake. This same earthquake also destroyed many other ancient buildings in the left city. The Iranian government has taken steps to rebuild them. In the center of Isfahan town is the famous Shah Jahan Maidan. Surrounding the square are many ancient monuments of the Safavid kingdom, one of which is the Shah Mosque in the south. Juma prayers of Shah Masjid are offered here. Ruins of an ancient Elamite city in Pasargada. Located in the province of Persia, the city was the first capital of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. To its southwest lies the city of Persepolis, built in the 6th century BC by the famous King Cyrus II of ancient Persia. Much is known about the culture of the ancient Persians in the various architectural and carvings of this city. Also of interest are the ruins of the city of Sultaniya in northwestern Iran, especially the tomb of Ilkhan Eliatu. Takht-i Sulayman is a place of pilgrimage in the province of West Azerbaijan commemorating King Sulayman. There is also an important archaeological site in the valley of Tongay Balagi in the province of Fars, with traces of 130 human settlements dating back to about 5 millennium BC. Demographics: according to the 2006 census, the population of Iran is 7,49,282. 1/4 of them are 15 years of age or younger. Iran is an ethnically and linguistically diverse country. In some cities, such as Tehran, coexistence of people of different nationalities is observed. There are also about 4 million more Iranians living abroad. They live mainly in North America, Western Europe, Turkey, the Persian Gulf countries and Australia. According to the CIA Factbook, the ethnic groups in Iran are Persians 51%, Azeri 24%, Jalaki and Mazandarani 8%, Kurdish 8%, Kurdish 8%, Arab 3%, Lur 2%, Baluchi 2%, Turkmen 2% and the other 1%. The state religion of Iran is Islam and the state madhab is Ashariya Jafri. The Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali and Zaydi sects are also constitutionally recognized in the country. About 90 to 95% of Iranians are Shia Muslims. The Muslim community in Iran: Shia, 95%, Sunni, 5%. Christianity, Judaism and Zoroastrianism are recognized minorities in Iran and these communities have reserved seats in the Majlis-e-Shura. Historically, ancient Iranian religions, such as the Adi Iranian religion and later Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, were the dominant religions of Iran, especially in the Middle, Achaemenid, Parthian and Sassanid eras. This changed with the fall of the Sassanid Empire and the Islamization of the Muslims in the centuries following the conquest of Persia. Iran was a predominantly Sunni country before the conversion to Shi'ism by the Safavid Empire in the 16th century. Today, 4 to 6% of Iran's population is Sunni Muslim, most of them Kurdish and Baluchi. The remaining 2% are from the non-Muslim minority Christian, Jewish, Baha'i, Mandaean, Yazidi, Yarzani, Zarathustra and other communities. Shrine of the 8th Shia Imam Ali Raza in Mashhad, Iran. Iran's largest, not recognized, minority religion is Yarsanism. It is a Kurdish folklore associated with Zoroastrianism with about 3 million followers. The Yarzanis are mainly Gorani Kurdish and belong to a specific Lurus population and live in the provinces of Kurdistan, Kermanshah and Loristan. The history of Judaism in Iran is quite ancient, dating back to the fall of Babylon. Although many Iranian Jews emigrated as a result of the birth of the State of Israel and the 1979 Islamic Revolution, there are still about 8,758 to 25,000 Jews in Iran. Iran has the second largest Jewish population in the Middle East after Israel. 9th century St. Stephanos Monastery in Julfa, part of the Armenian Monastery of Iran and one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Iran is home to between 250,000 and 360,000 Christians, and Christianity is the country's largest recognized minority religion. The majority of Iranian Christians are Armenians and a significant portion are Assyrians. The Ba faith is not officially recognized in Iran, and its followers are often the victims of state persecution. According to the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Iran, the Baha'is are Iran's largest non-Muslim religious minority, numbering approximately 350,000. The Baha'is have been subjected to increasing persecution since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, especially their exclusion from civil rights, higher education and employment. Iranian culture, also known as Persian culture, is one of the most influential cultures in the world. Iran is referred to as the cradle of civilization. Due to Iran's dominant geopolitical position and culture in the world, Iran influences the culture and people of Italy, Macedonia, and Greece in the west, Russia and Eastern Europe in the north, Arabian Peninsula in the south and Indian subcontinent and East Asia in the east. One of the hallmarks of Iran's cultural identity and its historical longevity is its eclectic cultural resilience. Numerous branches with stonework. Iranian art has evolved through multiple stages, which is a testament to Iran's unique aesthetics. These periods range from the Elamite Choga Jambal to the medieval and Hasheminian crafts of Persepolis to the mosaic of Bishapur. Language main articles. Persian language and Persian literature. There are three main languages spoken in Iran: Iranian, Turkish and Semitic. Persian is the main language among them. Persian is the national language of Iran. Its origins in the Persian language of Iran and its written language are more than 1,000 years old. Other Iranian languages include Kurdish in western Iran, Tati Otalishi in the northwest, Mazandarani and Jalaki in the north of the Elburz Mountains, and Baluchi in southeastern Iran. Arabic is also spoken in the Semitic language family in Khuzestan province in southwestern Iran and along the Persian Gulf coast. Modern Persian is the official language of Iran. Persian is an ancient literary language. It was written in Pahlavi script before the Arab invasion in the 7th century. The language began to use Arabic script in the 9th and 10th centuries. Spoken Persian had many distinct dialects until the 1950s, but since then the spread of government education and the media has led to the emergence of a respected spoken Persian. There are also some minority speakers who have their own media and publications. Among them are Turkish, Azeri, Kurdish, Arabic and Armenian. Sports in Iran. Polo was introduced in Iran. Nakush-e Jahan Square in Isfahan, Iran is the site of a medieval royal polo field.